Hi again. Uh, Now we are going to see the game where actually Black sacrifices the rook at some point, and that's why he won the game. The game was between Pranav, that's Indian prodigy, and he's kind of not very similar to Gukesh, but I played one versus this young kid, and he's actually very talented. While on the other side, we got big star Hans Moke Niemann. I mean, why is he's the star? I think if you guys follow chess through last year, you probably saw the thing which happened between him and Magnus Carlsen. So that's why we might call him a star. I mean, he became so popular after that thing. In the game, Hans Niemann was white while Pranav was black. So Black won eventually, and it was very big fighting game eventually. And we'll see how Black won. I think you guys are going to enjoy this like I did while I was actually looking at this game. And let's see what happens. So Niemann starts with d4, knight f6, and d4, first move d4 is always considered as more positional move than everything else. And after d4, knight f6, he just went c4. And now Pranav went e6, which is pretty much normal stuff. It's preparing couple of different options which black can do, and then Hunt played knight f3 b6. So this is well known Nimzo Indian stuff. Well, black is trying to do stuff with bishop b7 and bishop b7, and eventually at some point he might also play bishop b4 and knight d4 and create the kind of normal control of the center, which white doesn't really have. Like white, the point here is that white is not having any source of serious control in the center, and that's why this opening is so popular as black. Eventually, black can play bishop a6. So after g3, he actually went for bishop a6. The idea is not just attacking this pawn, but at some point also, because white wants bishop g2, black is aiming for rather long diagonal, which is a6 f1. So after b3, he went bishop b4. Another options here were just bishop e7, and after bishop g2, kind of he would play something like d5 to try to predict something around the center. But in the game, he eventually chose bishop b4, which is solid. So after bishop d2, he went bishop e7. Now you guys probably wonder why the hell he came back and played twice with the same piece in the opening, when we actually know that that principle is not actually the best thing one player should try, especially not in this level of the opening, right? But the point, this bishop on d2 is not so active, I would say so. He's not so active. He doesn't have a good square after d2. And this knight belongs to d2 eventually. He might come to c3, which happened in the game. But I'm saying that this bishop should come either here or here. He doesn't belong to d2 for long term. And we'll see in the game why. So after white played knight c3, Pranav we chose d5. And then c takes d5. E takes d5. So, for example, something else like knight d5 would be a little bit disgusting, because after e4, white would get the full centralization. That's why I don't prefer this thing at all. So, e takes d5 is very logical. Hans Moke played bishop g2, castles. This is nothing special. Knight from b to d7, and now we got 95. So this is first interesting kind of thing of the game, because now white is actually threatening a couple of things. First, directly straightforwardly knight d5, so he has a double attack here. Another thing is knight c6 and knight d7, big sort of initiative around this thing. And the third thing, he might play f4 at some point eventually, which I don't think white even considered here, because the real idea is eventually knight c6 and also opening up this bishop, because that bishop on a6 is doing good job here, but he leaves the d5 pawn kind of undefended. So after this situation, black just chooses to play bishop b7, and now we got bishop f4. So this is what I was talking about. That bishop on d2 was doing nothing, so he really needed to come back to f4. And after that, black chose a6. So the point, Black wants to play on the side of the board where he's usually better. The side of the board in this case is the queen side, and that's why after a6 we want just b5 and knight b6 eventually. So after this situation, white plays queen c2, pretty solid. The point, well, just involving all of the pieces into the game, connecting the rooks and making the position very common. Black goes rook e8, and now rook fd1. So rook d1 is just okay for me. He is using the logical approach because at some point white maybe will open up the file. I mean, let's say for example now black does c5, white will just capture, and after capturing white will just capture all the way here, and that's going to create the problems for black as well. I mean, this is already kind of lost the position completely for black, and white is just completely winning in that scenario. So I think that was the main idea of the Hans Moke's move, rook d1. So after this situation, black played h6. I think, and I consider this move as just a waiting move. Waiting move means that it's not useless move, but it's not the move which is either threatening anything. It's just the move which says, okay, now you are on the move, and we will see what are you going to do actually. So after this situation, white now has to play something as well, and he played queen f5. So I think this move is logical, and it makes a lot of the sense because he just wants to go in and try something as well. This whole system from both white and black is very solid, and the whole point is that there is no real tactical ideas a lot through this kind of position. It's more like waiting position where both of the players are trying to test each other and to see the limits. So black plays knight f8, very peaceful move. Knight g4. I think probably the idea was just to trade this knight and create more pressure around the d5. Black takes, white captures, and now the threat is bishop a6. So Pranav V chooses knight g6 immediately. After this, white does not bishop e3. I think this was a suspicious move because it's not recommended to put the bishop in front of the pawn, especially the centralized one. So this is just going to block the e2 pawn, and just this bishop on e3 looks kind of suspicious because this diagonal is closed. That's the thing here. So after this situation, black goes bishop a3, threatening this thing as well. That's the first threat. But another idea he is trying, I think that Hans Moke didn't predict this in a good way. It's actually rook sacrifice, rook e3. After this situation, rook b1, not allowing bishop e2, queen d6, involving the queen into the game. So I don't think rook e3 is still coming because black still didn't prepare all of the pieces to be active as well. So white chooses h4, and now bishop b4. The point, attacking just c3 as well, and getting this bishop more involved into the game, because this bishop needs to be careful. I mean, he might get out of the game for a long time, which is not required. Now white just goes h5. He doesn't really care. And now he doesn't care. Most of the players would come back either to e7 or f8, and that would be the thing. But here, Pranav chooses rook e3. And really big respect for this move. It's kind of very solid. Also, some of the players would maybe take, but I think after taking here, white got actually very good position because after this situation, white can play bishop f4 and erase more attack around the c7, g6, and d5. And this is also rook c1 is coming with rook c7, controlling the c file. So this is pretty much clear that black is going to be in a big trouble after bishop c3. So he sacrifices the rook, and now f takes c3, and now knight e7. And suddenly position looks unclear. Why? So white got the exchange up, rook for the dark square bishop, but he got a very disgusting pawn structure. That means at some point black might prepare some options like bishop c8, knight f5, queen f6, queen g5, queen e3. Well, okay, while when white's queen is on g4, that's still not aviable. But usually That's a plan, long-term plan. The point, even though white is up in exchange, I don't see a clear plan how he can play for the activity. And that's why black sacrificed. Rook d3, defending both of the weaknesses. Knight and the pawn, which is solid, I can say. F5 now. I wasn't expecting this. Honestly, I thought this might be opening up a king a bit too much, but the real problem here is that white doesn't have any source of attackers at this side. That's the thing. So white just goes queen f3, rook f8, and knight f4. And now we got queen f6, knight b2, just couple of moves which are like common, and now bishop d6, knight d1. Knight d1 is just, I would say, too slow. What actually computer likes is rook c3, and it says like white is doing okay because he might threaten some bishop c7 at some point, but also the other idea is might be this knight d3. Eventually after knight d1, now black is starting the serious attack, queen g5, attacking g3. And now white doesn't care. So what's the thing? After this move, black actually got a very nice ideas of bishop c6 with the next bishop b5. And let's say after a4, he can now actually play bishop e8 and bishop h5. And that's actually the whole point. So that's why I think king h2 is a blunder, because it's too slow and it's putting the king in a very big pin and unsafe squares. So knight f2, he just tries to involve his knight into the game. But the thing I didn't like it here is rotating that knight a lot. I don't think it's paying off for white. So bishop g3, knight h3 is forcing, queen h4 is forced, and now knight f4. I mean, trading queens in those positions is always bad because black is the one who is pressuring. So trading queens is just awful. Knight f4, and now we got bishop c6. And after bishop c6, white just goes bishop h3, and now bishop f4. Here, computer likes bishop h5, bishop e8 because of the bishop h5 potentially as a faster idea, which I agree with, because bishop f4 seems like giving white's balance in the position. Black was better, but suddenly he kind of threw that kind of the advantage. But still, position, I would take black, because black is really starting to pressure white as well. White plays the best moves, bishop g2, and now black goes c6. The point, after bishop h5 immediately, white can just do queen h3 and trade the queens, and it's not so solid for black as well. Trading the queens again doesn't really gives me confidence as black here. So c6 and now b4. I thought probably just trying to get something like this at some point, maybe this and more defenses over b3. So what black does is knight c8 with clearly this stuff eventually as an idea, or this stuff. We got queen e3, and next couple of moves are just kind of waiting moves. Queen f3, and now finally knight d6, and now white takes, and now we got knight c4, which actually starts being as a serious threat. Black is creating a serious threat as well. White goes queen f2, trading of the queens, offering a trade of the queens, but normally black should never trade the queens in this kind of position, like we said. And now some checks are happening, and then white did queen g2, which wasn't the best. The best move eventually was king h1, but I'm not so sure what is the real difference. I think he probably likes this idea as well, not really queen g2, and now queen d6. And the problem, this is hanging, and all of this stuff is coming up. Rook a7, and now rook d8. This is slightly worse. Rook e7 is slightly better, keeping the rook on the 7th rank. So black did rook d8, and now the game is very unclear as well. It's very tempting. Both of the players needs to be very careful. And now we got bishop d5. That move b5 was a really nice option for white. But after king h7, white has nothing. That's a problem. And now black starts striking. He starts taking up the pawns. And then he comes back normally. No trade of the queens. Here, if white would capture, that would be just completely awful for white, because now black would set up the advanced pawn, and eventually he would usually promote this pawn as well. So that's a problem which white is facing with trading this. And after bishop g2, we got just the pressure. White is just in a pressure. Rook f3, rook f8, defending the pawn. Now sacrifice the rook. So here, critical moment. Um, if white doesn't sacrifice the rook, it's a probably dead loss. Let's say he does something like, I'm not sure, like king h2. Black can just play knight e3 with eventually knight g4 coming as well. And not just that, but also bishop c6, bishop d2. So I guess that was the reason why he sacrificed, and he wanted to eventually take a pawn. And this position should be kind of drawish, but I would still take black because of this knight. And black played very accurately, and even though those two pawns looks very strong, they are not eventually so dangerous because black is having so active queen with the knight eventually. And now after king h2, knight e3 is coming up. And now white did bishop h3, the only move to save knight g4 threat, because now after taking on g4, after knight g4, which is bad, white would just go queen f6 with a lot of the checks like queen d8, queen f6, just repeatedly perpetual check. It's nothing which black can actually do. So black played knight d5 to eventually not allow that idea, and white did bishop d2, and now we got knight e4. So rotating with the knight. That's why exactly I like this position for black. Bishop f1, b4. The game is going on. Queen f3, h5, bishop c4, king h6. And now, final blow on the game was bishop b3. You probably wonder why this is a blunder. So in this situation, white should play bishop f1 and cover all of the key squares for the knight eventually. The problem which white made it is that now, after bishop b3, first problem is that white can't give any checks to the black's king. And that's going to cause psychological problems. I mean, he's just defending with not any source or any with no attacking resources. And now queen h4, king g1, queen e1, and it just looks like nothing is happening. But the real problem is that after queen c1, king h2, queen b1, he will play queen c3. If queen h2 was coming here, the problem would be queen d4. The pawn is falling, and now everything is falling because the other one would next eventually fall very soon. So that was the idea. Now white just played queen d1, defending that pawn, and now black played queen c3. Trading with the queens would not lead to anything. It would lead to very, very unclear position where even white would be in the situation where he can actually do something, because after queen d1, bishop d1, it's not completely clear. Queen d7 is okay, but this is what white is preparing, and it's very, very unclear situation. Because also bishop is better on the both of the sides. So black chooses to play queen c3, and now we got queen c2. And you probably wonder, why is this so awful? Well, black is just dominating. Now his knight is also dominating, and black just takes everything. The point after this, they're just queen e5 and queen e6. We just take the bishop. There's nothing. So after queen e2, knight g5, white goes queen d6, but the problem with that, black can actually play a very nice move, which he didn't play, queen e5. And now after queen e5, knight f3, and really easily won the game. That's what I would do. But he chooses the slightly harder way, but it's still enough. He chooses to offer the trade of the queens, and eventually no checks for white. That's the hardest thing, and after a couple of moves, white just resigned. So that's it when it comes to this game. Hans Niemann lost to 150 points weaker rated player, and now this is not his league, but he kind of lost it, and it was a really nice game. I like it, this rook sacrifice, and it clearly shows that rating doesn't play like a player. So that was it when it comes to this game. Thank you guys for watching. Follow up for more tomorrow. We are going to do a recap of the World Chess Championship game number 5, and see you next time. Goodbye.